I'm starting to redefine what easy means to me, and I've realized that as long as I know what I'm doing, even things that are somewhat involved feel simple, and those are the things that I'm trying to grab hold of and incorporate into my life more. There are things we must do for ourselves every day, like eating and hygiene and dressing and hopefully a bit of exercise. My goal this year is to simplify those daily tasks so that the truly hard things have space to be hard. I've been complicating a lot that doesn't need to be complicated, and in the midst of it all, I'm still subject to things that are out of my control. I really love cooking though, and I love having a repertoire of recipes I can fall back on. I want to be able to open my pantry or skim the contents of my fridge and not have to work so hard to figure out what to make. I want cooking to feel as easy as it looks when Ina Garten does it. In acknowledgement of this, I'm solidifying some of the basics that I feel slouchy on. I'm honing in on what spices I love and developing some staple sauces so that even when all I have is rice and cabbage, I am not tempted to call in outside reinforcements. I recently received The Secret of Cooking, and it seems to be the answer to my question in cookbook form. I love how the soup recipes are written in paragraphs, and though it is full of meals, the approach feels more like a guide to cooking as a whole rather than a collection of instructions. More in the way of, learn how to be a better cook and adjust things as you like, rather than follow this recipe exactly. That's sort of how I aim to share things here. Ultimately, I'm hoping to inspire rather than show meticulous step-by-step tutorials, because to me that feels so rigid and sort of goes against the process of doing something creative. Which brings me to the risotto. When Chase was bartending, he'd get home around midnight, sometimes 1 on a Saturday, sometimes 3 on New Year's Eve. My day job rarely started before 9 a.m., so I'd stay up and make dinner for him. I remember so many nights spent at our tiny stove in our poorly lit kitchen sautéing mushrooms and babying risotto at 11 p.m. The first recipe I'd ever found called for the mushrooms to be sautéed in butter and set aside. Then you'd cook the shallots and rice together for a few minutes before adding white wine. As I remember, the recipe called for a splash, but I always added half a bottle. Then I'd pour myself a glass. I rarely drink, but there's something about having a glass of wine while I'm making dinner that feels so special, and I think it started then, in that tiny apartment on Blick Street, making dinner alone in the middle of the night. It's a personal tradition, and aren't those pretty special? The things we only do for ourselves. I don't mind the hour risotto takes because it's a process I know by heart. Sauté the rice and aromatics, add half a bottle of wine, reduce, stock, reduce, and repeat. What's difficult for me is the clunky process of making a new recipe, the stopping and starting and scrolling to reference ingredient lists and temperatures. The staccato of making something that isn't committed to memory makes me crave pizza that will be delivered to my door within the hour. Like those first rehearsals of a play when you aren't off book. How can you really work when you're stuck in the page? But risotto is fine. It's good, because I'm off book with risotto, so I can improvise, and that's when cooking is most enjoyable. And when cooking is enjoyable, I want to do it more often. And when I do it more often, I only eat pizza when I really want it, which is still a lot, but it's rarely a consolation meal. Maybe risotto isn't your easy thing. Maybe it's sandwiches, and in that case, may you make a variety of sandwiches every day. My wish for you is to know sandwiches inside and out, to collect condiments and pickled veggies so that even if you only have a can of tuna in your cupboard, you can make the most inspired tuna sandwich and feel nourished.